really filled from the back forward. That's really how I know. My name's Andrew McGown. I work for the Archdiocese of Denver. I'm the Executive Director of Evangelization and Family Life Ministries. Very happy to be with you today and to bring you our workshop on Relational Evangelization, which we've been bringing to a number of our parishes. And we actually just presented to over half the business managers of the entire Archdiocese yesterday. We did this workshop yesterday for almost half the business managers, so we're really excited to be with you. I'm so excited for today. This workshop has really been the fruit of really the last 3 years of the ministry of our office, and really what the Lord has shown us through a lot of one-on-one ministry and coaching different parishes, and so I'm really excited to share this with you. This is meant for everybody. So what we're going to share today, you don't have to come in with any prerequisite knowledge. So you're all safe here, okay? This is intended to be consumed by the typical Catholic or the typical Christian, okay? So we're excited to be with you. Where are we going today? Okay? The first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to address what we have found to be the most common misconceptions about the nature of evangelization. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. I'm not going to go too crazy into that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to provide a roadmap. We want to talk about how does someone go from being far from God and coming to faith. One way you could say it is, how does someone go from being lost to being found? Okay? Can we know anything about that journey? The good news is we can. We really can know about what milestones someone takes along that way. Why is that helpful for us? Because then we know what we can do to help them, right? We're not left to guess, which for me, for most of my life, the very few times, long ago, it was definitely only a few times I ever tried to help someone by sharing the faith, it was a complete guess. I was literally in the dark, just throwing anything I could imagine at them, hoping something would stick, okay? At the end of today, I hope you walk away feeling like I'm not in the dark anymore, okay? And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to equip skills. We really want you to walk away with some really tangible stuff, like what can I do? And now I know some simple actions that I can do to help people on their journey to faith. That's today. Oh, and we're going to do a Q&A. I love this slide. I think this is a very helpful slide to begin with. Okay. On one side, you can see it. Oh, maybe you can't see it. Hopefully you can see it from that side over there. Okay. This side over here, there's a house. I think it's actually an abbey, like a monastery that's built on a rock. Okay. Over here, this is a house that is literally built on the sand. Okay. Does this remind you of anything Jesus may or may not have said? I hope it does. I hope it does. Okay. Matthew chapter 7, right? You know the parable of the wise man builds his house on the rock. The foolish man builds his house on the sand. Okay. We're going to spend a significant amount of time this morning laying the foundation upon which we're going to build like a framework for how to share the faith with people and skills. Okay. Like, Andrew, why do we need to do all this building of the foundation? Why can't we just get to the practical stuff? That's what I want, right? This is why I think we need to talk what we're going to talk about this morning, because it's been my experience, and it was my life, but it's also been my experience in ministry, that due to no fault of our own, the ideas we have about evangelization, what we think the church is asking us to do, many times are not actually what the church is asking us to do. And because what's up here is not necessarily the truth or is aligned with what the church is saying when she says evangelization, many times we're afraid. For me, let me just give my experience. You know, it was not often I heard a homily on evangelization. Thanks be to God, we're hearing more of those. But when I was growing up, it was like maybe once a year, you'd get that guilt trip homily. Like, you all should share your faith. And I don't know if this is your experience when that happens, but like I would slide down the pew, like slowly but surely, and I was like, do not make eye contact with the priest. Like, this is not the time to look at him. Like, just look away and really pray that like he's not looking at you if you ever glance over, okay? Because I was afraid, because what I thought the church meant by share the faith was go to a random stranger downtown on the street and in one conversation convert them from lost to found. And I was like terrified, like I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. Also, that's really uncomfortable. Like, what are they gonna think if I just walk up to them and be like, you're doomed to hell, I need to save you? Like, we all know inherently that that is the least effective model of evangelization, is yelling at someone on the street, okay? But we think, not because we chose to think that way, but we've like inherited from movies and lots of other places, these kind of mental furniture about evangelization And it's really important that we shine a light on that, because many times our false conceptions, these misconceptions about the work of evangelization, they paralyze us because we're afraid, because we think we're being asked to do something the church is not asking us to do. So I think I found it so freeing to do this. Sometimes, like, when you hear, like, evangelization is kind of like a 4-letter word sometimes in the church. It's like, it shines a light on this boogeyman that lives in the back of our head. Like, we know he's there. Like, at some point, we're supposed to share the faith, but, like, we just leave him in a dark room. And, like, anytime anyone talks about it, it's like they open the door and turn the lights on. It's like, no, close the door. Like, we don't talk about him, okay? We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about evangelization, okay? We're going to shine the light, and we're going to get rid of the boogeyman, and it's going to be really freeing this morning. Okay, that's my purpose. That you walk away not feeling like this. That, like, if I go out on a limb, let's say I actually finally go out on a limb and share the faith, the fear on this side is that, like, it's all going to crumble underneath me. Like, I'm going to fall flat on my face. You don't need to raise your hands for this part. You're not going to raise your hand for the second part. Raise your hand if you've ever tried to share the faith with anyone in any context ever in your life. Okay? Most of us, okay? Put your hands down. You don't have to raise your hand for this. Only I will raise my hand for this. If you've ever tried to share the faith with someone and fell flat on your face and it totally failed. Okay. This happened yesterday. I told you you didn't have to, but many people are like, that's me, okay? That's me. So we need to recognize that sometimes that experience also causes us to fear doing it again, because we think, I did it, I failed in the past, I will fail in the future. That's not the case. I want you to feel like this, because there is truth to the fact that evangelization will never be comfortable. And I'm going to say that again. Evangelization will never feel perfectly comfortable. I cannot promise you that at any time in your life, you're never going to be anxious about sharing the faith. Like, Jesus is always inviting us to take steps out of our comfort zone, our habits, our normal life, to initiate. Like, we need to do that. And many times that's going to feel uncomfortable. But what I can promise you is that you can be confident doing that. Even if it doesn't feel natural or normal, that you can be like, I can do this, even if it's uncomfortable for me to do that, to take a step out. Why did Jesus come? Okay? Anybody want to yell? Just yell out one of your answers. Okay? There's many ways of saying probably the same thing. What's one thing that came up that you think? Why did he come?
To serve.
To serve. What else?
Conquer death.
Conquer death.
Teach us how to love.
Teach us how to love. Okay. Did you know that Jesus himself tells us why he came? Did you know? This is in Luke chapter 19. He says himself, why did I come? The Son of Man has come. This is one way of saying what I think is captured in everything you're saying. To seek and to save what was lost. Why did he come? To save us. To seek us out. We were lost. And in saving us, his saving is love. It's service. It's all those things. Right? So Jesus came, but this is like a succinct way to say that. To seek and to save what was lost. He did not come for those who are well. Remember, he comes for sinners. Like this, many ways to say the same thing. Okay? This is a succinct way. Let's take it one level deeper. Jesus dies, rises from the dead. On ascension, he tells his apostles, right, the Great Commission, go therefore, and then they're given the Holy Spirit at Pentecost, right? So the church is born and released. Why? What is the purpose of the church? Let's actually, I've got a slide for this. This is a really fun fill in the blank thing. Okay? Maybe you can look at the top, but this is the simplest way to ask it. We're talking about the church. Why does she exist? Now, spend like 1 minute at your table sharing what you think might be an answer to this question. This is a really, really fascinating question, because I think most Catholics, I think we're a good sampling of the church here. We were all pretty close on the first one. Like that's to be expected. Like we're all pretty sure why Jesus came. He came to save us, right? To love us, to serve us, to teach us how to love others, to save us. Now, when we bring that one step down, when I mean church, I should have made this clarification. I mean like big C church, the church in the whole world. I'm not yet talking about holy name in Steamboat. I'm just talking the church, okay? Why does the church exist? I already heard we already begin to have slightly different takes on like what is the point of the church, right? You're going to see where this exercise is going. Okay? But the church herself has answered this question, okay? And this might shock you. This is an encyclical, Evangelization in the Modern World, St. Paul VI, okay? Evangelization is, in fact, the grace and vocation proper to the church, her deepest identity. She exists in order to evangelize. She exists in order to evangelize. The whole purpose that there is a church, instead of all of us just having our individual relationships with God somewhere in the woods, is for evangelization, according to the church. Now, I don't blame you for not having heard this, right? Although this was spoken like 50 years ago, sometimes it takes a while for this stuff to trickle down to us, common folk. I'm just being honest, like from Rome to the bishop, right? But this is not a question, it's answered, okay? Why is that the case? We're going to talk about this in a minute, but Jesus entrusts to his church his mission. It's not a different mission. You understand? Jesus' mission was one, come and to save the lost. When he goes to heaven, he says, you 12, and the women and those around you, the disciples, I'm giving you my mission. I'm entrusting it to you. Go and do it. Okay? That's the purpose of the church. Now, this is fun. The church obviously is a big thing, but it is incarnated locally in a parish, like in a community. And in the Catholic Church, you know that a community is a geographic expression. Like you actually have geographic boundaries. You guys are all Route County, right? Like that's your boundary. And more, is it just Route County or just, okay, getting the odds up. Okay. That's a pretty big boundary. So the church puts a parish in a geographic reason. Why does your parish exist? Why does Holy Name Catholic Church in Steamboat exist? Again, this has been answered. This is joy of the gospel. This is not the only place this is said. It's many places it's said. This is an easy, short quote for me to find. In all its activities, the parish encourages and trains its members to be evangelizers. Okay, so the answer, like you're seeing where we're going with this, right? The answer is the same answer. Why does Holy Name exist here? To seek and to save the souls that live in Route County. That's why your parish exists. Now, again, I don't blame you if you weren't told that. Okay? I don't blame any priests if they weren't told that, because sometimes we don't think in this way. It's easy for us to be distracted by the tasks, the what of what we do, which is all important and necessary and good. We dispense sacraments. Yes, that's how people get into salvation, baptism, confirmation, Eucharist. Okay? We join together in prayer. We have communion with one another. Community, that's all really important. But that's not why. That's an insufficient why we exist, why we are here. The why is because God sent us here to bring light into the darkness of Route County, that all people would have the opportunity to hear the gospel and respond. Because the alternative is, like, I don't think anyone thinks this way, but in other places in the world, you could see people that might reduce the church to a social club. It's like, it's just for us. It's for us members. The point of this establishment is for you and I to have a better time, to get better holy, and that, like, I guess if anyone wants to join, they can, as long as they go through our hoops, but it's just really about us. It's not at all, because what's going to happen when we get to heaven? And Jesus is like, so what did you do with what I gave you? It's like, well, we all buried it. We had a real fun time in the hole that we buried with all of our stuff. No, we're here because Jesus saved us and he's inviting us to go and continue his mission. Okay? Now this is an ideal to be strived for. I can't tell you there's a single parish in our Archdiocese that this describes right now, that in all its activities, it encourages and trains its members to be evangelized. This is an ideal that we're working towards. I just want to make that clear. I don't have a single example. And we're on a spectrum here of percentage-wise, some parishes are further along in this journey than others are. Okay, but this is the ideal we're striving for. Do we understand that? I hope you saw where this exercise was going. Okay, we're going to finally land it here with, why are you a Catholic? Why did Jesus bring you out of darkness into light? Okay, why did he bring you out of darkness into the kingdom of his marvelous light? Why did he save you? Okay, it would be insufficient to envision or imagine a plan of evangelization to be carried out by professionals. Andrew from the Archdiocese, Father Greg, who is trained, Deacon so-and-so, who's trained. It would be insufficient to imagine a plan of evangelization carried out by professionals while the rest of the faithful would simply be passive recipients. The new evangelization calls for personal involvement on the part of each of the baptized. Okay, so our mission, this is where we get it. Okay, so someone who's not baptized, this is probably silly to clarify this, but just to make sure we're clear. If they're not baptized, it's not their mission to evangelize, right? That should be pretty obvious. That's easy. But once we've been baptized, in our baptism, we're both given really the call for us. Another way of saying the same things we've been saying is to imitate Jesus. Our invitation from God is imitate me in my holiness, in my love, and in my mission, right? Follow me. Follow me. I am the way. Follow me. And follow him means to think like him, act like him, do like him. And his mission is to the lost, so we follow him in that way. So we all share the same mission, right? So I want you to see, I'm going back one slide, it's the same from the top to the bottom. We all share one singular purpose, which is God's rescue mission, you could say, to humanity that's lost, wounded, broken, in darkness. Okay? All right. So if that's the case, this is an interesting question to me. Why aren't we doing it? If the church has pretty serious clarity from the very top all the way to the very bottom, one singular purpose, why don't we see it happening? This is not a rhetorical question. I'm going to give you maybe 5 minutes at your table, because I think a lot can come out of this, to just share with one another. Why don't you think we see this happening more frequently? Let me just bring this picture back up again. I think, if to simplify, very generically here, this is why we don't, is because we just don't have a good foundation. There's a lot of things there, but we're not firmly rooted, and we're not from a place of strength. We're feeling like a place of weakness. Okay? We don't know necessarily what evangelization is. It's a good question. Andrew, define evangelization. Great question. Could we even define that? We feel uncomfortable. We feel like we don't know how. All these things, right? Again, this is where we're going. My hope is that this is where you feel at the end of today. Okay? All right. I want to move into bringing to light. These are not all of them, but many of the most common misconceptions, to bring to light, talk about them, and help us get to a place of the right conception. That makes sense. We're going to move from misconception to right conception. Okay, the first common misconception I find, this is what I like to refer to it, is the extra credit opportunity. That we think that evangelization is for those who have the training and have the time and really want to score some extra points with God, when they get a chance to share the faith, okay? This is a misconception. Obviously, you saw that quote from earlier. This is for everyone all the time, in some sense. It's not just an extra credit opportunity. This is our primary purpose. Our primary purpose, okay? A second one. Man, this one, we'll spend a bit more time on this one, because this one is very, very common. And don't you dare try to make me say this word out loud. You do it. Proselytization versus personal invitation. What do I mean by that? Okay, it looks like this. We fear that what the church is asking us to do is to impose our way of thinking, our way of behaving and acting on other people. We are afraid of that. Really, what the church is asking us to do is to propose to them. It makes sense. There's a very big difference between imposing and proposing to someone's conscience, where they have the free choice to decide yes or no. There's a whole bunch, believe me, and if you really want them, I'll send them to you, of church quotes from church documents that back up everything I'm saying here. It's just, we realized we needed to trim down from 110 slides to something reasonable for someday like this. So we cut out a bunch of these quotes, okay? But believe me, there's a beautiful quote from St. Paul VI who talks about, it would surely be an error to impose on our brothers and sisters, but it is not imposing on them to propose the gospel to their conscience freely. There's a great quote about that. It also comes out oops, go next. Ooh, I'm just going to put the rest of it up here. It really hits home with this. We feel like we need to convince them. That the fundamentally evangelization is described by the action word convince. And I am telling you, from my perspective at the diocese, my understanding and my place in evangelization, introduce is the proper word. Okay? That is a fundamental mental shift. Let me play this out for you again. What I said was the most common thing I hear when I say, why don't people evangelize? The most common thing I hear is, I don't feel like I know enough. I don't feel like I know enough to evangelize. Take that further down, okay? What don't you know that you think you need to know? Well, I think I need to know a bunch of answers to these really hard questions. Well, why do you need to know all these answers? Well, so that I can convince them of the truth. Whoa, hold on. We're afraid that what the church is saying is intellectually win so that they will agree. I have never, ever met a single person who was intellectually argued into the church. Not one. I've met many of people who have read their way into the church. That's very different. They read their way into the church. We sometimes end up winning arguments and losing people. We're more concerned about winning an argument right now than about winning a heart. It's not about winning. It's not about arguing. It's about introducing. And this comes down to we're sharing something with them. What are we sharing? there's a fundamental difference between information and an invitation. Okay? Now, let me give you a biblical parable to back that up. Matthew 22. You know this parable, you've heard it. A king threw a wedding feast for his son. Okay? And he sends his servants out into the streets, and they post themselves up on the corner, and they have a philosophical debate about the benefits of attending a wedding feast. And no, they don't, right? They don't go out and have a symposium arguing about why you should come. They just share the invitation. You're invited. You're invited to a feast. Is the king mad at them when those people don't come? No, he's not. He's not mad at his servants. Like, you stupid servants, you wicked servants, why didn't you convince them to show up? He never said that. What the heck? Oh, I shouldn't have pounded so hard there. Emphasize my point, okay? He just says, go to other people. Move on. Go to someone else, right? We are sharing an invitation to a relationship with God. It's not our responsibility to intellectually, philosophically convince someone. If it was, you surely need degrees in philosophy and theology to do that. You really do. Like, in this day and age, you need to understand psychology, philosophy to argue someone into right belief. You don't need to do that. Just let go of that false responsibility. Like, laugh at the devil and say, ha ha, good luck trying to get me to do that. I'm not going to do that. Another great example. Hold on one second. Let me tell you this example, and then I'll take your question or comment. The woman at the well. You remember the story, John chapter 4. Maybe you didn't realize, or you forgot, that she had incorrect theology. She argued with Jesus about where was the right place to worship God. Kind of hard to win in an argument against Jesus about where's the best place to pray, okay? Even with her incorrect theology, what did she do? She evangelized an entire village. All she did was invite them, come and see the man. Come and see, okay? There's many biblical examples of this. This is a deeply rooted misconception we have that causes us to fear. We're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to impose on people. Like, I don't want to be argumentative. Now, it's maybe this will be your comment, and I'll get to it in just like 10 seconds. We'll talk in a little bit about what happens if someone argues with you. Like, I'm not the one like initiating an argument to try to win someone. We'll talk about that. But like, we can let go of the fear that Jesus is asking us to go out and to just convince people. Let me hammer this point home here a little bit, okay? Pope Francis. I cannot introduce you to Pope Francis. Why not? He doesn't know me, and I don't know him, okay? I don't have a cell phone. I don't even know how you would go about doing that. Like, I even work for the Archdiocese, and I don't even know how you go about trying to meet him, okay? Now, I really like some of the things he said. I particularly love Joy of the Gospel. I think it's one of the most fundamentally fruitful documents on evangelization that's been done in the last 50 years, okay? I have his picture on my wall. We have a papal blessing in our house, okay? I've even memorized some of his quotes, okay? But I cannot introduce you to him. Now, if your relationship with Jesus is like my relationship with Pope Francis, you have an image on your wall, you've read some of the things he's written, you maybe even memorized some of the stuff he said, you cannot evangelize because you cannot introduce someone to him. Archbishop Aquila. He does know me, okay? He knows my name, but he doesn't know my job title. This is really funny. There was a conference at his house this week that I was invited to. He forgot that he invited me. It was really funny. The guy was like, this is only for bishops. Why are you here? I was like, Archbishop invited me. He's like, Archbishop forgot. He introduced me to the group of bishops with the wrong title. I'm like, Archbishop, you know me. So like, we know each other, but like, we're not friends. We're not close friends, okay? If you really, really needed me to, I could introduce you to Archbishop. But I would really need a reason. Like, I'm not going to just like, I don't have enough of relational equity to just like flippantly introduce people to Archbishop Aquila. If your relationship with Jesus is like my relationship to Archbishop Aquila, you might be able to evangelize, but only under extreme circumstances. Like if you only ever connect with Jesus every now and then, you're kind of worried he doesn't even really know your job description in your life, or like, you're not going to be able to do that. Now, my wife, okay? I could call my wife right now, she's at a soccer game, so she probably would answer, and introduce all of you to her. Why? I live with her. I know her. She knows me. We love each other, okay? We're in relationship. This is what Jesus is inviting us into, this kind of intimacy. And when we're growing in this kind of intimacy, it just flows out of us, evangelization. Because I have no problem. I introduce people to my wife all the time, okay? So this is really an invitation to think about who am I in his eyes? what is the kind of relationship he wants? Because when we get to this level, you don't even struggle to evangelize. It just comes out of you. Because if you even hit like a hard point, you just can turn to him right away because he's right there with you. Like, man, what happened there, Jesus? Like, can you help me figure that out? Right? It's not, you don't feel this distance, okay? If you're like into church teaching and documents and you really need to back this up, that like, Andrew, I'm not really sure. I still feel like the theology and philosophy is important. And that like seems to be the thing we need to do. Pope Benedict, I hope you like him and you respect him. He's really smart. This is what he said in his encyclical on God is Love. The very first words. We have come to believe in God's love. In these words, the Christian can express the fundamental decision of his life. Being Christian is not the result of an ethical choice or a lofty idea, but the encounter with a person. Okay? To be a Christian means you have met Jesus. You've met him. Pope Benedict said that, not me, Pope Benedict. It wasn't because you looked at all the moral codes of like Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, and you're like, you know, I like Christianity the best. Or you read like G.K. Chesterton, like he's really witty in English, and like I like him, I'm going to be in his religion. No. To be a Christian means you've met someone who is alive, who died and is still alive. That's Jesus. He's still alive, right? Usually through the introduction of a Christian who knows him. Okay? One other one, and we're going to move on. The world is calling. I would even say the world is desperate for evangelizers to speak to it of a God whom the evangelists themselves should know and be familiar with as if they could see the invisible. As if they could see the invisible. People are desperate for you not to teach them doctrine. They're not desperate for that. You all know that. That's why they don't show up to Bible study. Okay? What they're desperate for is for you to speak to them about a God who is real, who they can't see, but you can see. They're desperate for that. They need you to do that. Okay. That's, don't even make me say the word, versus proselytation. Okay. The next one. Two more. I call this the two extremes. Okay? You know, we want to hit the middle between these two extremes. On one end of the spectrum, this is not very common, although I need to name it because I have actually seen it. It's the belief that, well, conversion happens in the secret of someone's heart by God's grace, and we have no part in it. It's 100% God, 0% me. I've actually met priests who think that, okay? It's not your priest, just make that really clear. It's not Father David, okay? There's other priests who met that, and it's really, really sad to me, because essentially, oh, so we literally do nothing? We literally do nothing, yep. God does it secretly in their heart and their life, brings them to conversion. Well, there's a grain of truth in that, yeah, like God does work in the secret of their heart to bring them to conversion, but it's definitely wrong that we do nothing. That's one extreme. It's very uncommon for us. What is way more common is the other extreme, on the other side of the spectrum, which says, I'm afraid it's all up to me. It's my job, period, to convert someone. That's a misconception, and it's a lie. You have no power to convert someone. You just don't. And that should be really freeing, not depressing. Really freeing, like, oh, I can finally let go of this false responsibility that it's my job to do it. Nope, 100% Jesus, 100% you. Not 50-50. It's all us, all him. Those are the two extremes. Okay, so let go of. What the enemy tries to do, I've seen this so much in my life, and maybe you can relate. He tries to make me afraid that, like, if I don't say the right thing and at the right time and the perfect tone of voice, that it was my fault they didn't come to faith. It's absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. It's just a lie. And you know what? By its fruit. What kind of fruit does it produce in you? Fear, anxiety, it paralyzes you. That's definitely not from God. That's a pretty easy way to know it's not from God. How do you know something's from God? The other fruits. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Okay. I worked at a summer camp and we sang it as a song, so I can't ever not, that's how I memorize it. Okay. The fruit of the Spirit is not a coconut. It's Galatians 5. Okay, this is the fruits of the Spirit. Okay. That's the two extremes. Okay. One more I'm going to mention. And then I think we're about to take a break. Okay. I call it stranger danger. Okay. Most of us have stranger danger in evangelization. But what I mean by that is we think that when the church says, go share the faith, sometimes we're afraid the church only means to complete strangers. Like, go to the local pub on a Friday night when everyone's hammered and, like, in one conversation, evangelize someone. And we're like, I am not doing that. Or go to the gentleman's club, wait for that lady to come out after her shift and teach her about Jesus' love for her. That she doesn't need to do that. No, okay? Those people need God's love. Let's be clear. They really need it, okay? But let me argue that you already have people in your sphere of influence that need it. You don't need to go far to find them. family members, friends, co-workers, neighbors, okay? And in fact, I would argue, this is a little scary, that's exactly why God puts you in that sphere of influence. It's for those exact people, okay? And it might in fact be the case, especially the further we get in our society and post-Christian, far from Christian, that you might be the only person that they know in their entire life who has ever known Jesus. You might be the one. And if you don't share the faith with them, no one will. It really is the case. Like, we couldn't have said that 50 years ago. It's definitely not the case 50 years ago. It is definitely true now, especially among young people. You might be the only one who could ever share the faith with them. And if you don't know, well. Okay, so you don't have to go far away. Some of us might be given a charism of evangelization. Paul tells us this. Now, that's different than the universal call we all have to evangelize. We're all called to evangelize within our sphere of influence, every one of us, to live our relationships intentionally. But some of us will be given a special charism, a special call to really go out to the nations. And I don't want to downgrade that, because that really does happen. People really feel a calling to go to those lost people where they are and bring them back. But that's not all of us. The church is not saying every single one of you must do door-to-door ministry. No, I'm saying no. You can take that to the bank. So that's not what the church is saying. But the church is saying, yeah, your father-in-law, he needs to hear the gospel. Your nephew, he needs to hear the gospel. Your neighbor who you talk with over the fence, they need to hear the gospel. And I find, maybe this is you, sometimes it's actually scarier to do it to my family than it is a complete stranger. I would much rather go talk to a complete stranger at the bar than to my father-in-law. He needs the gospel. He needs the gospel. Okay? Anyway. All right. A couple more and then we're going to be done. We're going to take a break here in just about 2 minutes. Okay? We spent a lot of time talking about the misconceptions. Well, Andrew, what is the right conception? How should I understand evangelization? Okay? Here's how we can understand evangelization. The simplest way to put it. Evangelization is taking the initiative to share Christ, motivated by love, in the power of the Holy Spirit, and leaving the results to God. That's evangelization in the simplest definition. We could spend really like a whole day breaking down this definition into many beautiful parts. Taking the initiative, okay? It's not a good strategy to sit in the upper room and be like, man, if anyone knocks, we're ready. We're ready, right? It's not enough to stay here at Holy Name and be like, if anyone walks in the door, we're ready. Not enough. You got to take the initiative to share him. Motivated by love, not because these people are your projects. That's a subtle temptation sometimes when we finally gear ourselves up to share the faith. We can slip into being like, okay, they're my project. I'm working on them, No, wait a minute. They're not a project, they're a person, and you love them, right? We love, through love, and the power of the Holy Spirit. Again, wow, whole retreat on that one. Not only you. You've got to access the Holy Spirit, who is the primary agent of evangelization. And finally, man, leave the results to God. Leave the results to him and have freedom. You're that servant that was sent out to share the invitation to the wedding guests. Come to the feast. Your king is not mad if they say no. We just need to let that go. The enemy wants to convince you that God is mad if they said no. If they don't respond, then God's upset with you. It's not ever true. They have complete free will. We need to honor. God honors it. We honor their free will to say yes and no. Leave the results to God. Okay? Last thing, and then we're going to take a break. What's today about? It's about, I think, when I think about evangelization, I kind of put it into two modes. One mode is one-off evangelization. On an airplane, at Safeway, downtown, walking on the street. Like these kind of chance divine moments, these divine appointments we just kind of fall into. Like, oh, I didn't expect to have that conversation. Like, here we are. An opportunity to share the faith. That's a one-off. What we're talking about today is, how do I share the faith in the context of a relationship over time? I know them, they know me. I know we're going to have follow-up conversations about this. Like, I don't have to do it all at once. That's what we're training on today. I really think that this will help us with that, but this is not a street evangelization training. Like, what do you do on the plane? This is not that training. This is, how do I continue to slowly share the faith with my best friend? Over time, over coffee, over the course of weeks and months. That's today.